Could I have the plate?
How's everybody tonight?
Good.
Good to be back with you. The weather's getting nicer, the days are getting longer.
Oh man.
Amen to that? Tonight I'd like to read from the Gospel of Matthew, starting in chapter 24 and verse 36. Now just before that, this is a response to a question that Jesus was asked by his disciples. They asked him, what will be a sign of your coming? Now obviously, we realize that he's with them already, so it's not his first coming that they're inquiring or asking about here, is it? No, because they were aware that Jesus was there in their presence. That was his first coming. But here's a topic that you don't often hear about that much, but here, just after us celebrating the death and the resurrection of Jesus, here's a topic that should interest you and I. It's not his first coming, but they're inquiring about his second coming. And their question to him was, what's it going to be like just before you come? Now, we know that the angels testified that to those things that we just finished celebrating last month, his death and his resurrection and his ascension into heaven. And these same angels say to Jesus after that, after the resurrection, which death and resurrection, which we just celebrated, they asked him a similar, or the angels say to Jesus' followers, after Jesus was ascended to heaven, and the angels, the same angels who pronounced his birth to the shepherds, you remember?
Yeah.
Go into Jerusalem, and there you'll find the babe wrapped in a manger. Now these angels are standing around. See, Jesus just ascended into heaven. And these angels, maybe not the exact same angels, but angels are there, and they're asking his followers, why are you looking up? This same Jesus that you just saw go up into heaven, that same Jesus will come back for those that are his. That same Jesus who went up, one day will come back. And so all this just leads to that question that they ask him. What will it be like just before Jesus, you come back? And so here's his answer in the Gospel of Matthew 24, starting in verse 36. He says, but concerning that day and hour, no one knows, not even the angels of heaven, nor the Son, but the Father only. For as were the days of Noah, so will be the coming of the Son of Man. For as in those days before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, until the day when Noah entered the ark. And they were unaware until the flood came and swept them all away. So will be the coming of the Son of Man. Then 2 men will be in the field. One will be taken and one left. 2 women will be grinding at the mill. One will be taken and one left. Therefore, stay awake, for you do not know on what day your Lord is coming. But know this, that if the master of the house had known in what part of the night the thief was coming, he would have stayed awake and would not have let his house be broken into. Therefore, you also must be ready, for the Son of Man is coming at an hour you do not expect. So we begin again. This question is posed. Jesus, what's it going to look like just prior to your coming back? His second coming, remember? And Jesus' response might catch some of you a little bit off guard. It's a little bit of a surprise in that Jesus, God the Son, the second person in the Trinity, he says, I don't know. He says, of that time, no one knows the exact day or hour. Only God the Father. And so what's he doing by saying that he doesn't know? I mean, the Bible says that Jesus is God's Son. So how can he not know everything? And the Bible doesn't try to cover this up, does it? And so what's that mean for you and I here tonight? Well, I believe, and this is what the Bible says, is that here we see God in the flesh. Remember that baby when we started at Christmas time? This babe wasn't just a little baby. He was fully God and fully man. And because he chose at that time to just limit his knowledge, Jesus says something somewhat surprising in that he doesn't know the exact hour or day. But Jesus says that he does know the season. Just like you and I can be aware, we realize that at the end of summer, the leaves on the trees, what happens to them?
They fall off.
Yeah, they fall off. They change color, and then they fall off. And then what does that mean usually? Well, usually, what does that mean? Winter's just around the corner, isn't it? So Jesus is now, he's going to share a few things with his disciples. He says, listen, I don't know the day or the hour, but here's what the season will be. Here's what it's going to look like at that time. And he says in verse 37, he says, for as were the days of Noah, so will be the coming of the Son of Man. For as in those days before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage until the day when Noah entered that ark. So, he takes a story, an account of Noah. He doesn't say it was a story that didn't happen. It was just a fairy tale. This is document. He's treating this account as if it's a historical account, isn't he? This is a real thing. And he's saying, what's it going to look like? Well, it's going to be somewhat similar to the days of Noah. And he starts saying, he compares it to Noah, and life seemed very normal at that time, he says. That's what we just read. People were eating and drinking. They were being married to one another. And on the surface, all that seemed as business as usual. Just like here today. We got up this morning. Maybe we had breakfast. We watched TV. It was a nice day. We went out for a walk. We chatted amongst each other. Some of us went to work. And here we are. Just another day as usual. And that's where Jesus starts. What's it going to be like, Jesus, when you come back? Well, he says it's just going to be like, on the beginning of the day, perhaps, it's going to be like any other day. It's going to just be like business as usual. They didn't see any likelihood of a flood. Those people that saw Noah starting to build this ark. And you know what? He was building it not on the water. He was building it on dry land.
In the desert.
In the desert.
That's right.
That's a very odd place to be building a big boat. Back then, they didn't have a crane, or you couldn't put that on a yeah, and move it around. A trailer. You couldn't put that thing on a trailer and just bring it to the ocean. And yet, he's building that ark on dry land. And there wasn't any likelihood of a flood. As a matter of fact, at this point in the earth's history, it never rained. There was just dew that came up from the ground. And so what are the chances, they must have thought to themselves, of a flood occurring? And what's this crazy man doing here, building an ark? And yet we're told, the Bible tells us, that Noah was a preacher of God. And you can imagine the people just walking by, and Noah, and you know the thing is? The thing of it is, Noah took over 100 years to build that ark. And so you can imagine the mocking of this poor man. Look, what a fool!